Do you want to increase your memory? Do you wish that there was a magic pill that you can take so that you can learn faster and with more information all at the same time? Do you have a test coming up? Maybe it's the SAT or the LSAT or the bar exam. Those are the 3 exams you need to take to become a lawyer. Or do you have a procedure at work right now that they're trying to implement, but it's too complicated? There's so many steps that you have to remember, and you need to pass the final exam. You need to have a good grade, or you need to learn the procedure so you can get promoted. But you've been trying to study this over and over again. You've taken the time, you've reread the same paragraph over and over again, and your book looks like it's a rainbow with all the highlights you've done all over it. Or you've been rereading the same manual over and over again and have post-its everywhere and you've marked every word, but nothing is working. You still feel confused and you feel that you have not remembered a single thing. Now you're asking yourself, do I have what it takes? Maybe you're doubting yourself right now because you've been studying so much and nothing's happening. Maybe you're starting to remember that one person who told you that you were stupid or that you're too young to learn this or that you're too old to learn new information. So you keep on asking yourself again and again, do I have what it takes to learn this? I want to tell you that you do, and you can, and I'll show you how. Hi there, my name is Catherine. I'm a lawyer and I think differently. The world is rapidly changing around us and we need a new way of thinking. Let's think differently. I understand how you feel about taking exams. I've taken so many exams in my life to become a lawyer. I used to read a book several times over and over again. I've tried so many study techniques, even sleeping with my book under my pillow, hoping that in the morning it will magically all be inside my head. Of course, that didn't work. As I studied for these exams, I realized that I was developing study skills that are so unique and different from other people. I was able to pass the SAT, the LSAT, the bar, in law school and in college. And now that I'm a lawyer, I'm also winning all the time. I was able to consistently graduate with honors, for example, at UCLA in college, at Southwestern Law School. And as a lawyer, I'm consistently winning my arguments because I know the law and the complicated facts in and out more than anyone in the courtroom. And you can do it too. I learned recently that the study skills I've applied for myself throughout these years have been researched by experts in the field of learning and memory. That's because I'm not the only one who's applied this. A lot of people that have excelled in their field have applied this as well. It's just that I didn't know how to articulate what I'm doing that differently in terms of studying until I read the book Make It Stick. Henry Roediger and Mark McDaniel are neuroscientists and Peter Brown is a storyteller. Together, they all combined their skills to provide us with good information as to how people learn and actually remember. What that book did for me is that it gave labels as to what I've been doing, and a light bulb just turned on. And that's what I wanted to share with you today by explaining to you how I do things and how other people have done it so that you can learn the same way they have and excel yourself. There are 3 study habits that you can try today to increase your memory. The first study habit is called spacing. That means that it's better to learn information by spacing them out over time as opposed to cramming them all up in one sitting. Research shows that long-term memory happens over hours, even several days. If it takes some effort to get the information from your brain after a little forgetting, that will strengthen your memory. For example, a research study was done among medical students who needed to learn how to reattach tiny vessels. They all had to learn 4 lessons. Half of the medical students learned all 4 lessons in one single day. This is the usual procedure in medical school. But half of them learned it differently. Half of them completed the same 4 lessons, but with 1 week interval between the lessons. The results were phenomenal. The medical students who learned the lessons in 1 day scored less in all of the tests, as opposed to the medical students who learned the 4 lessons over an interval of time. Those medical students who actually learned the lessons in 1 single day, some of them even damaged the vessels that they were trying to repair. Yikes! As a lawyer myself, I have applied spacing in learning my complicated case law and also in preparing for court hearings. For example, if I have a hearing in about a week, I will read the case now. I will read it, I won't take notes, I won't highlight, I'll just read it and know what it says. I'll let it sink in for a day or 2, and then I'll reread it again. I will remember the facts that I remember fully, and then I will notice some facts that I might have forgotten. But now I will remember them because I don't want to forget them again, knowing that they're important. So that's how spacing works. In time, your long-term memory gets strengthened because you're remembering what you remember and you're remembering fully what you have forgotten. For example, if you're trying to remember 5 words for your SATs, then write those 5 words of your vocabulary on a flashcard. And then review them today, those 5 words, perhaps just repeatedly 5 times, but not the whole day, every hour, right? Just read them and know what they say, know what each word say. And then next week, look at those 5 words again. You'll notice that you'll remember some words and you've forgotten some words. So let's say you remember 2 of those 5 words. Now you know you remember those 2 words, so you set those 2 aside. The 3 words that you've forgotten, you look at them and you remember that you've forgotten them, and so now you won't forget because you will be working on those 3 words. And also, by learning those 5 words at the same time, both the 2 that you remembered well and the 3 that you've forgotten, you're reinforcing all of the words. That's how long-term memory works. I know it sounds confusing, it sounds hard, it sounds counterintuitive, and you feel like I don't have time for that. I have to cram them all at once. That's why you have to plan when you're studying. And also, with learning, the harder it is for you to retrieve the information from your brain, the easier it is for you to remember it long term. The second study habit is called mixing concepts. Mixing concepts mean that you're learning 2 or more concepts all at the same time, as opposed to trying to learn one concept over and over and over again until you master it before moving to the next topic. A research was done on 2 groups of college students who were taught how to calculate the volume of 4 types of solids. Both groups of college students were given a set of computations for each of the 4 types of solids. One group of college students practiced 4 problems of the same computation for the same type of solid 1. And then they moved on the 4 practice questions for the same solid number 2. And that's how they did it. They clustered their problem types based on the type of solid, and that's how they were practicing. The second group of college students worked on the same set of problems, but they mixed it up all together as opposed to clustering the problems according to the types of solid. They worked on it all at the same time by mixing the concepts of which computation to use for one particular solid and the second solid and the third solid and the fourth type of solid. Both groups had a final test 1 week later. The group who studied in clustered, meaning the same type of problems, scored only 20% correct. The group who studied using mixed concept scored 63% correct. Wow! Let's say you're an art major and trying to study different painters and their work. Try to study one painter compared to another painter by mixing them up instead of studying just one painter over and over again. When you study painter 1 and painter 2 at the same time, you'll start learning what are the commonalities and the differences between the two, and that will help you relate better and distinguish better what makes them different from each other. So when you take your test, you can easily identify which painter is which because you've tried to analyze yourself what are the similarities and the differences between the two painters. Research shows that you learn better this way and master the information longer. The third type of study habit is called mixing up your methods. Mixing up your concept means that you practice the same information using different situations. This improves your ability to transfer what you learned in one situation and apply it successfully to another situation. Research also shows that when brain scans are done, when you're doing different kinds of practices, different parts of your brain are actually activated. For example, in school, we learn one chapter at a time of the same concept, and then we go home and do 20 homeworks of the same type of information, and we repeat this over and over again, chapter by chapter, throughout the entire semester. And then we take the final exam, and all the problems are all mixed up, and we're supposed to determine which of the chapter solutions that we remembered are supposed to apply for a particular problem. But our brain wasn't trained that way throughout the entire semester. So how are we supposed to figure it out? It's by mixing problem types in different situations. Also, in real life, when a particular solution is applicable will be unpredictable. You never know when you're going to use a particular information at a particular time. It's all random. And so you have to be able to distinguish when you need to do a certain thing, when to apply a certain information for a certain set of problems. For example, a group of kids were studied by research as to how to throw a beanbag. Specifically, they needed to throw beanbags within 3 feet. A group of kids were taught to throw beanbags within 3 feet only. They practiced throwing beanbags over and over again within 3 feet only. However, a group of kids also practiced tossing a beanbag, but they practiced within 4 feet only, and then 1 feet only, and they practiced that randomly. They did not even practice how to throw within 3 feet. Later on, when both groups of kids were asked to throw the beanbag within 3 feet, the group of kids who actually practiced 4 feet and 1 feet throwing were more accurate than the group of kids who were practicing only throwing 3 feet. Why? Because these group of kids who were practicing randomly were able to develop the skill to determine how much they need to adjust themselves, how much they need to throw so that the beanbag will actually reach within 3 feet, as opposed to this other group who didn't develop the skill of practicing and determining in what situation is a particular skill needed to solve the problem. Now, let's put all of these 3 study habits together so you can implement them all today. Let's try the flashcards again. Let's say you're trying to study vocabulary again for your SAT. Write those words on flashcards today. Write them down and then read those flashcards several times, but not to the point of exhaustion and telling yourself you're not going to get up from your chair until you memorize the whole thing. No, just go ahead and read it and let it sink in a bit and then set them aside. And you know what? If you're trying to study for the SAT, mix up the topics. Instead of just the vocabulary, try to do a little bit of the math that you can't remember or anything else that you feel you need to study for the SAT. And put that in your flashcards so you're mixing up the concepts. And where do you put the flashcards after you set them up down? try to put them all over your house. I used to do this. I would put them on my mirror so that whenever I'm brushing my teeth, I'm looking at the flashcard. When I was in law school, I did that. So let's say I was trying to study for constitutional law. When I brush my teeth, the flashcard on the mirror is about the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And so as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm reading the First Amendment, and then I'm trying to think about the different situations the First Amendment will come into play. I might look at my toothbrush and see that there's a writing on there and see if that's something that would constitute a First Amendment, or think of the news that I just read earlier or heard on my podcast. Those are the different ways that you can try to use your flashcards to space them out throughout your house, and also to trigger the different problem types and different types of situations of thinking about them. In terms of mixing up your methods, even if you're using flashcards, perhaps instead of just writing down those vocabulary, try to draw something that represents that particular vocabulary. My 11-year-old son actually does that for his vocabulary at school. He doodles next to the vocabulary that he's trying to learn. And I don't tell him, don't doodle. You know how some parents or teachers tell you, don't do that, just concentrate on your words. No, because I know that by drawing what those vocabularies mean, that strengthens my son's memory. That's why even though he's a 5th grader, his vocabulary is 8th or 9th grade level. When you're learning, try to relate it to something that you're doing in real life. That will also help strengthen your memory. Remember, learning is supposed to be fun. It is fun when you try to do things the way that works for you, not what you hear from other people. So even though I gave you an advice on the 3 study habits that you can try today, try to modify that into how you would think. And remember, when you try these study habits, it will feel counterintuitive. Learning will not feel easy and you will feel frustrated. I felt that myself when I was trying these study habits, but I kept at it because I saw results. So try it, because if you've been trying something that hasn't been working, might as well try something new. Remember, think differently. If you learned something new from this video, please click like, subscribe, and share. My son created these for me in support of my YouTube video. Please click like, subscribe, or share.